nor do I claim to.
Sorry, I forgot.
I am not a doctor, nor do I claim to be. This is for informational purposes only. AIP is not a medical treatment whatsoever, or a prescription. Always talk to your healthcare provider before making any dietary or lifestyle changes. The framework that I'm going to go over with you today is about information. It is not about perfection. It's about choice. It is not about compliance. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of this presentation, I want to just briefly, I know all of us on the call, or I'm assuming all of us on this call or on this Zoom are familiar with what autoimmune disease is, but it's important to kind of frame the rest of the presentation. So, autoimmune disease in general, lupus is an autoimmune disease, meaning the immune system mistakenly attacks healthy tissue, causing chronic inflammation. So imagine your immune system is a guard dog that sometimes bites you instead of the intruder. So that is what is happening with lupus. That's what's happening with autoimmune disease. So the gut immune connection, about 70% of immunity lives in the gut. So what we eat has an impact on our immune imbalance. So in lupus, immune dysregulation and inflammation drives flares. So it also drives our symptoms. So food can either stress the system or it can help calm it. And knowing this helps sets us up for the next step. So next we're going to talk about a dietary approach designed for people with autoimmunity, which we already mentioned is the autoimmune protocol. So what is it? If, by show of hands, or if you can put in the comment section or in the chat, if you're familiar with AIP or the autoimmune protocol, have you heard of it? Have you tried it? What has your experience been with it? I always hear several different things about it. So hopefully today we can clear up any questions, comments, or maybe even concerns you may have about the autoimmune protocol. So what is it? It's the science-based elimination and reintroduction diet for autoimmune condition. The goal for AIP is to reduce inflammation, which we just mentioned, support gut healing, and calm the immune system. With AIP, we focus on whole, real, nutrient-dense foods and temporarily remove common trigger foods. So by eliminating certain foods for a time, then carefully adding them back in, we learn which foods might cause our personal flares. So you all know with autoimmune disease, with lupus, it's different for everybody and it's different for everybody. So the autoimmune protocol is not in and of itself a long-term diet. It is only a tool to help you figure out what the triggers are for you. So think of it as giving your body a break from inflammatory foods so it can reset and heal. The important thing is understanding AIP's role. So specifically, how does that impact you and your lupus? So why diet matters with lupus, which is why we're all here. So again, lupus involves ongoing inflammation, and certain foods can trigger or worsen these inflammatory flares. Many people with lupus have nutrient gaps like vitamin A, D, K2, folate, iron, magnesium, selenium, and omega-3s. So we need extra nutrition to help our bodies heal. Since most of our immunity is in our gut, as I just mentioned, a healthy gut can help regulate the immune system. Food is a powerful tool. It can act like medicine to reduce inflammation or conversely stress us out if we pick the wrong stuff. So for example, eating processed sugar, you may notice if you journal, because that's one of the things we like to do to keep track of our flares, you may notice an increase in your flares versus when you're eating healthy. Things like leafy greens and salmon, you may notice a reduction in your symptoms. So if diet is so powerful, what exactly is AIP doing? And what is it not doing? So AIP, again, and I'm going to reiterate this throughout the entire presentation. It's about reducing inflammation. It's about managing your symptoms. It's about restoring balance to your immune system. However, it is common that I will see in groups online, and it will irritate me to no end all of the misconceptions that people have about diet and lupus and all of the judgment, right? And it doesn't impact me. I have lupus. It must not impact you. But again, everybody is different and everybody is different. So making sure that you understand that is going to be important on this journey. It's not a fad diet. It's not a one size fits all cure. And it's not a forever punishment, which some people seem to think it is. The most important part about it, and we'll talk about it more later, is the reintroduction, not the elimination. We want to make sure that you're adding those foods back in that you can eat that don't cause you triggers. And so think of AIP as a temporary experiment to find your body's triggers, and then we adjust what we eat accordingly. It's all about you. You're starting small, you're listening to your body's signals, and you're working with your doctor or your coach for guidance. It's flexible. We adapt it to fit our culture, we adapt it to fit our budget, we adapt it to fit our lifestyle. You don't have to be perfect. It is only a tool. So, how has that worked with me? I told you earlier that I had some experience in this thing. And so, this is the experience that I have had. All of those are me. All of these pictures were taken in 2021, a year after I became a certified AIP coach. Those before and afters, and the befores, let me start there. I'm working out hard. My calories in are less than my calories out. I'm working out. I'm teaching 5, 6 classes a week. And Anne-Marie knows that when I'm teaching my classes, I'm going hard. And I
I'm
still
telling
was not.
you, those those chair classes, we did 4 songs in a chair. And after the third, I got up and wanted to walk away because I was over it. And she wouldn't let me. She called me out. That is no
Get back
joke.
down. Yeah, but
That is no joke.
even then, I was running 5Ks every weekend. I was doing, you see on there, I was doing Bounce Fit, I was doing everything, but it wasn't a weight problem. A lot of people don't understand that if you don't get to the root cause, that weight is not going to come off. And even when I started in 2021 with this process, this is 7 months apart. And fun story, I had gotten all of my food prepped and ready to go. I was going to be on it. I was not trying to lose weight. But what had happened was I was having difficulty on a medication that I was using, and it wasn't for specifically autoimmune disease. It was for my narcolepsy, and I was having all kinds of health issues, all kinds of symptoms that I could not manage, that I could not control. They had gotten so bad that my heart rate was spiking to 143 when I was sitting down. I was getting dizzy. And so I was at wit's end. But the same week I was supposed to start like really doing AIP, I'm not sure if you all remember that big freeze we had in
Mm,
2021. I had gotten
Snowmageddon.
all of my food prepared right before that, and then guess what happened? Everything went out. All of the electricity went out. I made sure that I froze my items and had ice on hand afterwards and was able to still utilize it. But nothing was going to stop me at that point. Um, and so I just say that to also say that the weight gain or the inability to lose weight was a symptom. I had to find the root cause, and part of me finding that root cause was finding out what my food triggers were. Because before y'all see me in the picture with the smoothie afterwards. Before it didn't matter if I ate a donut or if I ate, a green smoothie. Something that I was eating was causing me to have that inflammation in my body. And so all these years I had had difficulty losing weight, all kinds of joint issues. And it wasn't until I did AIP that I really found out specifically what was causing me to have those flares and causing me to look the way I was on those first pictures. And it's been I life-changing ever since. Anne-Marie?
You mean by trigger food?
Hmm?
You said about like a trigger food?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to get to that in a couple
Oh,
of slides.
okay. I'm
Yes.
sorry. I'm jumping ahead.
Yes, ma'am. That's coming up. And so I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into the AIP framework that I briefly mentioned earlier. And this is exactly what I did to get those results. So the elimination phase is where you remove those inflammatory foods, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, temporarily, and think of it as giving your immune system a break. It can be anywhere from 30 to 90 days. And I say 30 to 90 days because, again, everybody is different and everybody is different. And so all of us are at different levels of disease progression. Some of us may be in a flare already, some of us may not be. So it depends on where you are in that particular journey. Next is the reintroduction phase. We slowly reintroduce foods one at a time to see how you react. Again, it's like a scientific test on yourself. And then the third phase is personalization. We create a sustainable plan for you. You keep eating the foods that work and avoid the ones or limit the ones that don't. So imagine we clear out all of the irritants, then carefully add them back in like test chemicals. And then we finally settle on a balanced long-term menu. This allows you to become more empowered. It gives you back some control. You become the expert on your own body's responses. And let me just say for me, this was very important. The journey for me in figuring out what was going on with my body and me getting a new diagnosis every 4 years, especially with my type A personality and liking to have control, was the only time I experienced the severity of anxiety and depression that I have ever had in my life. And so for me, even though I know I can't reverse what I had, being able to have additional tools to give me back some control not only helped my body, it helped me mentally as well. So again, being able to apply this process to my own life has been a game changer for me. And I'm forever grateful for having found that. So now we know what the framework is. Let's get into details about what to actually remove, as Anne Marie was asking, and what do we keep. So I know you see all those foods on the side over there. Don't let that scare you. During the elimination, we take out grains, beans and legumes, dairy, processed sugar, seed oils, alcohol, nightshades, plus eggs, nuts, and seeds. The rationale behind this is that these are common inflammatory foods or allergens for many people. And so removing them gives your gut a chance to heal. So remember, I mentioned at the beginning that 70 to 80% depends on what resource or source that you use of your immune system is in your gut. Instead, and this is also what a lot of people miss about AIP, it's not just about taking foods out, it's also about making sure that you're including nutrient-dense foods or nutrient-rich foods. So lots of vegetables, except for those nightshades, some fruits, quality proteins, organ meats, bone broths, healthy fats. And again, these fats help support cell health and hormone production, important for your immune system balance. But again, I know you see a lot on the screen that you have to remove. Remember that this is only temporary. It's a short-term reset to find out what foods may be causing trouble for you. So for now, think of your diet when you're going through this process as fuel that gives your body the building blocks it needs without the irritants. So that's the elimination diet, but we do this for a reason. Because lupus increases the need for certain nutrients. So let's talk about nutrient density specifically for lupus. And I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier about nutrient density and how that matters regardless of what autoimmune disease that you have. So nutrient density means getting a lot of vitamins and minerals in every bite. That's simply what it means. More foods are more nutrient dense than others. So to focus on healing with AIP, we prioritize nutrient-dense foods because they support the immune system, help repair it, they help balance your hormones, and they also help boost your energy, areas that are often challenged by those with lupus and autoimmune disease in general. So when you see the foods that are on the screen, salmon, leafy greens, beef liver, which I know some of you, I was a little hesitant on that beef liver as well. I don't necessarily like the texture, but I have incorporated chicken livers, lamb livers. They're a little more palatable, but offal, as we call it, or organ meats, are one of the most nutrient-dense foods you can possibly have. So the bone broths, which I mentioned, berries, avocado, things that we normally have heard before, just reiterating here the importance of adding those back in when you're going through the process of the elimination. For the vegetables, as always, we're going to make sure we're focusing on the rainbow for your plate. Different colors mean different nutrients that your body needs. So again, think of these nutrients like building blocks and medicine for your body. Each one helps rebuild and regulate your immune system. So, with nutrient dense foods in mind, how do we build a plate, an AIP plate? I know that's what the, any questions so far before I go on? I don't want to be the only one talking. If not, we'll dive into it.
I just typed one in there. I noticed you put in some organ meats, and I completely understand that that is a the nutrients that are in there. Would you recommend, what if you have a vegetarian, for example? Would you recommend like beets? I know they're really high in or they're good for people like that are anemic and iron. They're high in iron. Is that something you would recommend in lieu of any of those livers?
Absolutely, as long as it's not one of the nightshade foods,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that has been a concern before. I'm not sure if you're familiar or ever heard of Dr. Sarah Ballantyne when she first did the autoimmune protocol. She's the one who created the autoimmune protocol or
Hmm.
modified it. We didn't have much of a focus on vegetarian and vegan.
Yeah.
But now we're starting to come out with more materials for that, specifically for that. So you'll see a lot more resources to modify this for you. And I'm going to talk about that a little more at the end as well, about modifying it for your specific diet as well.
Okay. That's good to know.
Mhm. But then actually, three-fourths of your plate for AIP are vegetables, raw
Mhm.
vegetables, cooked vegetables. Normally, for if you have digestion issues, the cooked vegetables are going to be a little bit better. You're going to add in high quality protein, palm size. And let me just tell you too, to reiterate that this is not a diet. I didn't weigh myself at the beginning because I wasn't trying to lose weight. I was just trying to reclaim my health. During this process, I never calculated anything. I never calculated calories. I'm stressed out enough. I have enough going on than try to write down everything I ate. So if you're worried about how much you're going to eat, when you're eating and three-fourths of your plate are vegetables, we say palm size, where people say palm size, eat what you want. I mean, it's just for me, that part of it, as far as calculating calories and how much fat, I didn't do it. Whatever it was, and it worked out. So, and most people that I know who do AIP don't, and they still have the success that they have. Um, for me also, I'll just add in here the simplest way to do it. And Anne Marie, she's on my page. She sees what I cook, and she also knows that I love to eat. I put the wok on there for that reason. The easiest way for me to do that: vegetables in a wok, a healthy fat, some avocado oil, coconut oil, meat and vegetables, and I'm done. Add in some coconut aminos. I have a meal. We're keeping it simple. I'm not measuring the oil, tablespoons. I just eyeball it, and whatever the ancestors, as they say, tell me to put in the pan, that's what I put in the pan. Also making sure that you're adding in small servings of fruit, and then
Mhm.
also fermented vegetables. I always make sure that I keep those in my refrigerator. Again, those
Mhm.
are important for gut health. You're also making sure that you're drinking plenty of fluids. People really underestimate how much dehydration can contribute to flares. So
Oh yeah.
making sure that you're keeping those herbal teas, waters, infused waters is going to be important as well. And again, while the diet is the main focus, I could not deliver this information without sharing, because this is the crux of the autoimmune protocol. Whenever you see someone talk about the autoimmune protocol, I'm sorry, Emery, go ahead.
There's a question about tofu and how we feel about tofu.
Oh, that's a loaded question. You're going to get different responses for different people. I would say some people say eliminate it altogether, but now they have come out with a modified AIP, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. Also, because of people's misconception as it relates to diet, um, Dr. This is a lot of information. I won't get too much into it, has now switched over to Nutrivore, where she doesn't eliminate any food. And she points out the benefits of the health benefits and nutrient density of foods like tofu. So I would say if you're doing full out core AIP, remove it. But if you're doing modified, it's something that you include in your diet, you're vegan, vegetarian, and it's something that's a staple, leave it in. But if you're still not in that, if you're still in the elimination phase and your body is not to a stage to where you can start reintroductions because you're still having flares, to eliminate it and see how it impacts your body, because that's all really what matters, right? We're trying to figure out I can eat the tofu if it doesn't cause me to have a flare. So I would take it on a case by case basis. But the standard is going forward. That's why you don't need to listen to all those people on the internet. Is that if it doesn't bother you, if it doesn't trigger anything, then it's
Yeah.
fine.
Except I do like it when it's double crispy fried at the sushi place on Westheimer, Lower Westheimer. I'm just saying.
You can do that too, because sometimes I'm at the nothing but cakes when I have people over for my showings and I'm stressed out. That's my little treat. I know
There
the
you go.
risks, but anyway,
Yeah.
but anyway, um,
Moderation, moderation, moderation.
exactly. That's exactly what it is. So these lifestyle pillars are also important. Um, we're focused on food today, but again, lifestyle, the whole package, when you talk about a holistic lifestyle, actually matters. Beyond diet, there's sleep, stress, movement, and in the middle, because it's important, is gut health. And all of those things impact your gut health. You're going to be aiming for restorative sleep, because poor sleep can increase inflammation and worsen flares. I've had clients who have done everything right, quote unquote, when in regards to um, their food, but they aren't getting enough sleep and they're still having trouble with their flares. Chronic stress affects hormones and immunity. Techniques like meditation or gentle hobbies can calm stress. For me, personally, stress is a bigger trigger for my flares than most foods. I feel it immediately. I feel it in my neck. I know when it's long term and when it's chronic. I know when I need to put my phone on do not disturb. I know when I need to be by myself because people on the verge are getting a tongue lashing. So again, if you're doing everything right in that elimination phase and you're still having issues, sleep, stress, even your movement is something that you need to look at. And also realize too, we talk in bell curves. When we say stress, people often think about anger or being in traffic. The news can cause you stress. Too much exercise is stress. It really is a bell curve. Too little movement can cause flares, but too much movement can cause flares. And again, everybody is different and everybody is different. I know some people with autoimmune disease, the most exercise that they can get is in the bed. I know some people who can tolerate my chair class, and some of them may not be able to, whether you have autoimmune disease or not. I know some people with I know some people with who with rheumatoid arthritis like myself who run marathons on a regular basis. That's not my ministry. You understand what I'm saying? That's something that I don't have a desire to do, and I'm barely making it now. Also, too, this the journey is linear. Things that I was able to do before my surgeries, before my shoulder surgeries, I had two shoulder surgeries in 2023. I cannot do now. Before my shoulder surgeries, I can get up, run a 5K, go to the gym, and go to Bounce Fit and be able to function for the rest of the day. Now I teach two classes, one of them in a chair. Wednesdays are my rest days. I'm out for the rest of the day. So you really need to be paying attention to your body and also know that as you go through certain changes in life, as you go through different stages, as you go through different ages, even for example, I'll use this as an example. I'm 45, had a hysterectomy last year, knocking on, still have the symptoms, knocking on menopause, hormonal changes impact your flares. So all of those things need to be taken into consideration too. So again, these pillars, integrating them, work with diet to create a full approach. So even small improvements here help amplify the benefits of what you eat. And again, if you are not noticing any changes when you change your diet with your flares, make sure that you're looking at each of these pillars as well. So the important thing is next, and you'll hear this a lot in all circles, tracking. I mentioned earlier, I did not track my calories, and that is not what we're talking about here. You're talking about tracking your symptoms so you can tie them with what you're eating or what you're doing as far as stress, movement, sleep is concerned, so you can figure out, be a detective to figure out what's causing your flares. So you're going to start a simple food and symptom journal. You can use an app, do whatever is not stressful for you. If you want to use the notes in your phone because that's what you use on a regular basis, that's fine. You're going to log what you eat and note how you feel after your meals. You're going to want to track, and might want to write this down or take a little note, your energy levels, your mood, your digestive comfort, your pain levels, your sleep quality, and anything that changes. Over days or weeks, look back at your log to spot trends. And let me tell you, things that were going on with my body, I just happened to notate and or have certain records of from 10 years ago. Had I not had those, it would have been harder for me to get my rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis. I have binders, not by choice because that's not what I started out doing. It's just I go to the doctor a lot. So I have binders of MRIs. I have kept all of my labs. And so I can kind of go back and see, okay, my labs were here. This is how I felt. And I can compare it to my food. And it was that and putting those pieces together that I was able to say, hold up, doctor, I know you don't want to diagnose me. Look at this binder. And as he's going through it confused, trying to see what is going on, my rheumatologist, he's like, oh, I don't understand. I'm like, I don't either. And so it helps not just with the AIP elimination process. It helps long term down the
Mhm.
road, especially for things you are unaware of. For example, I would wake up and I couldn't move my big toe. Went to the doctor, it wasn't gout. Years later, when I'm having the issues with my rheumatoid arthritis, misdiagnosis of mixed connective tissue disorder, all of those little pieces of the puzzle start to make a little bit more sense and help also eliminate or cross things off as to what it's not. Also, there are also AIP specific trackers you can use or just a notebook. The key here is consistency, but also note the positives, not just the negatives. If you're having a good symptom-free day, or if you have a tasty new recipe that you like, make sure that you write that down as well. You're recognizing the progress and this also helps keep up the motivation. Tracking puts you in the driver's seat. It turns your experience into actionable data. So now, speaking of reintroduction, let's discuss how to know when you're ready to move into that phase. And then we're going to get to the cooking. And don't worry, stick with me. All of this is important. So, transitioning from elimination to reintroduction. You're ready to reintroduce when your symptoms are clearly improved or stable for a while. So I mentioned before that 30 to 90 days, it's going to vary for everybody and it's going to vary for everybody. So it's usually 30 to 90 days of strict elimination, but you're going to go at your own pace. Also, it's very crucial. I've had clients do this all the time because we still have to live when we're going through this process. You may be going out of town. You may have to eat at a restaurant. You may not know what they're cooking. You may not. You may accidentally get gluten. You may eat something with pepper. That sometimes that will cause you to start that clock over again. So it's very important that you are aware of what you're eating. Again, gentle reminder, the reintroduction is a tool to gently expand your diet. It's not meant as a reward for getting through elimination. You're going to still focus on nutrient density even in the reintroduction phase. Good lifestyle habits while waiting, and this supports deeper healing. And again, take your time. There's no rush. It's better to wait a little bit longer to reintroduce than to do it too early and confuse your progress. Again, if you reintroduce too early and you're not at a state where your symptoms are noticeably improved or stabilized, then it's not going to be a process that you're going to enjoy because you're not going to be able to see those results because you didn't follow that 30 to 90 day rule, which is where a lot of people bow out of the process because it becomes stressful. But again, I'm going to talk about how to get around that with modified AIP shortly. So when it is time, you're going to be adding back these foods a little bit at a time. So reintroduction, again, you're going to do that after the 30 to 90 days when you see the symptom improvement. You're going to pick one food to test, often starting with something like dairy or a simple grain. On day one, have a small bite of that food, think about a teaspoon, and wait about 15 to 20 minutes. If you don't have a reaction, you're going to have a larger bite and wait 2 to 3 hours. Why this is important, you're going to say, well, Jamie, I eat this all the time, or I ate it before, I didn't have a reaction. You didn't necessarily have a reaction because it was built up in your system. The 30 to 90 days, when you get it out of your system and you're tracking, you're going to notice, my ankle is swelling up. I have a rash. I have more brain fog. I'm more tired. You're going to notice something more because we've eliminated it out of your diet for that period of time to get your body back to a state of calm. Then you're going to monitor for the next 2 to 4 days. You're going to watch for any changes in digestion, pain, mood, sleep, or even your skin. If you have no reaction, if you feel fine, it's like that food is likely okay. Try eating that food for a couple more times to make sure that you don't have a reaction to it. And if you don't have a reaction, that's likely a food that you can keep in your diet and reintroduce on a permanent basis. However, if you get a reaction and you see all of those reactions around the journal, pain, fatigue, rash, etc., stop that food immediately and wait for everything to calm down before testing another food. You're going to keep detailed notes of each attempt, and this is how we identify your personal triggers for good. Again, this can be frustrating, especially if a food that you like causes a reaction. But remember, it's information. You're learning what works for you. So you might be thinking, oh, Jamie, I don't know if I want to do all this. It seems like a lot. This is too strict. I talked a little bit about modified. This is something that is relatively new in the AIP world. Autoimmune Wellness and Mickey Trescott, which I still work with closely with the AIP-BIPOC network, has come out with some handouts, and I have these handouts as well, where we introduced modified because we wanted to make sure that this was not a stressful process, also taking into consideration other things like culture, like your budget, like your access. A lot of times, I'm going off on a tangent here, AIP was seen as very elitist. You have to have organic meats or organic fruits and vegetables. You have to be able to shop at Whole Foods. Well, what if you don't have Whole Foods money? Then what do you do? And people were taking that as a hard truth, and saying that I can't do AIP if I don't have those specific things. So that's where we wanted to introduce another option for those who still wanted to do AIP. Again, it does not have to be all or nothing. You focus on what you can do. If eliminating everything at once feels impossible, start with the biggest triggers and gradually reintroduce others. Consider your health level, consider your budget, consider your culture, consider your schedule. That may be an issue as well. For example, if gluten-free bread is a big part of your diet, maybe just cut out other sugars first. The priority is keeping nutrient density high, even if you can't reduce or eliminate everything immediately. So if you say, Jamie, this is too much, doing the whole elimination process is too much, you can start adding in more of those nutrient dense foods that we talked about, because you're going to see some benefit from that as well. You're going to modify with intention. For example, if giving up nuts is too hard right now, maybe stick to just removing grains and see how that goes. So you mentioned tofu earlier. You don't necessarily have to remove that if that's something that's going to cause you stress, because the stress of removing the tofu may be a bigger trigger than actually than the tofu itself. So you really want to have patience with yourself. Remember, it's not about perfection, and even small steps in the right direction add up. Consistency beats perfection. Think again, what positive change can I make today? Rather, what can't I have? So I want to also address, because again, I see this online all the time, and we've covered a couple of them today, some AIP myths and barriers. The first one I've covered already. It's too strict. Again, it's a tool, it's not a punishment. Set your own pace. And most foods return after reintroduction. You have to keep that in mind. We're just finding out what your triggers are. And for me, and also I'll come back to this later, because I want to make sure that we get to the cooking portion of it. Two, I can't afford this diet. Again, that was also part of the reason why I started the AIP-BIPOC network and how we started out as AIP, the autoimmune protocol. But when I was seeing my clients, and just this is a tangent, I wasn't seeing people who looked like me, number one. And then also I'm on the board of a federally qualified health center, so I know about those barriers of the social determinants of health. And I wanted to be able to get this knowledge to people who couldn't necessarily access it, or who couldn't necessarily afford it, and be able to remove the barriers, like affordability. So again, you're going to focus on budget-friendly staples. You can use ground meat. You don't have to go to Whole Foods and get meat from there. Um, Frozen vegetables are fine. And even, I won't get too deep into it. You hear some things about canned foods. But when you think about food deserts and people who don't have access, that may be only the only thing they have at the corner store. So when you say they're all bad, so I can choose between a hot dog or some canned vegetables, it doesn't matter. It really does matter. Rinse them off. You're still going to get more nutrients from those canned vegetables than you would from, that hot dog.
I
So
think
don't
I
let
think that's actually an important note that it's okay to buy what you can buy and what you like. It's rinsing off because canned food has a ton of salt in it, and you do want to rinse some of that salt off because that's going to actually cause inflammation as well. I call that my salty swelling when really it's probably just my chubbiness showing up. But I think that don't I agree, don't think it can't happen because of the neighborhood you're in or the access to certain foods or things that are not readily available, because you can modify anything in order to make it work. Is that true?
Absolutely. And just to note that if you want to look it up, or make a note, if you go to nutrivore.com, that Nutrivore is by Dr. Sarah Ballantyne, who came up with the autoimmune protocol. And it's not just for autoimmune disease, it's for any diet. And she has a section in there on the social determinants of health. So what she basically did is took the nutrient density portion of the AIP and applied it to any diet that you can possibly be on. Because all diets, regardless of whether it's keto, low carb, AIP, because you eliminate something, impacts nutrient density. And the lack of nutrients can cause health issues, can cause diseases just as much as processed foods or foods that are not good for you. So she gives every food a nutrient density score, but she also talks a lot about the difference between fresh, frozen, and canned vegetables and the nutrients you can get in each,
Mhm.
and kind of dispels some of those myths so that nutrition and nutrient density is accessible to everyone. And it's not about, again, what you're taking out of your diet. It's more about what you're adding in. So if you're making sure that you're getting all the nutrient density that you need, if you go and get some fried tofu or fried whatever, that's fine, because you're making sure that you're getting all of the nutrients that you need for your body, to make sure that you're as healthy as possible.
And the flaming Cheetos.
Yeah, all of that, all of that. Um, so another myth is that I don't have time to cook. And if you're like me with the rheumatoid arthritis, I don't feel like standing at the stove all day. I have things going on. That one wok, that one pan thing, I'll often post on my page that one sheet pan of root vegetables, one pan in the
Mhm.
oven, one dish to wash. I set it and forget it. Like Ron Pompey back in the day. I'm not sure
There,
if everybody's
yeah,
on here old enough to remember to set it and forget
uh,
it.
set it and
Or I'm
forget.
or I'm in my walk. I don't have the kind of time or patience to be up there all day. It is what it is. So you can do that with the AIP elimination as well. I have to be perfect, right? response. No one is perfect, and that's why we've implemented the modified version of it as well. Even if you slip up, you can keep going. Consistency is key, not perfection. I'll never eat my favorite foods again. I see people stressing out online about this all the time. I mean, they are in a tizzy about not being able to eat the foods you can again. Again, reintroduction exists so you can test your favorites, and often you'll get many of them back over time. But on the opposite end, and also why Dr. Sarah Ballantyne came up with Nutrivore, what we were seeing is people felt so good after elimination that they did not want to add things back in. And that is not the point of it at all, because nutrient density is so important. And she has a lot of studies, if you go to that site, about if you take out a whole food group, if you take out certain foods and you're not getting those nutrients, you can actually be doing more harm than good. So it's very important that you go through that reintroduction process. So we see things on both ends of the spectrum. Oh, I can't do it because I cannot bear for 30 to 90 days to take anything out of my diet. Or everybody's all gung ho. They take everything out of their diet, but they don't do those reintroductions, which are really important. So that being said, I know you're like, Jamie, you keep saying you're getting to the cooking. I am. Tips for success. Because again, we want you to be successful in this process. Plan ahead. Spend a few minutes planning or even batch cooking at the start of the week to avoid what do I eat, which is a huge stress. Especially when you're tired. I mentioned earlier, Wednesdays, I'm out. When I say Anne Marie, I'm out, I'm out. I'm
Mm-hmm.
upstairs and my son is back home now. It will be days. It will be 10 o'clock.
Oh.
I get upstairs. I'm not going back down. If my son wasn't here, I'd starve to death. Look, I'm
Well,
not.
I'm glad he's taking care of you then, Jamie.
It's so funny because I'm like, you see me when I work out. I'm like, people don't understand. Y'all understand. I like talking to my people because y'all understand. You see me out there. I'm giving y'all my all. I'm leaving it on the floor, but you don't see me by the time my body cools down with this arthritis, and I'm sitting in the car posting motivational posts online, trying to figure out how I'm gonna get out this car and get up my stairs. That's the part you don't see, Anne Marie.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all don't see how I take my shower now, and like all I can do, I don't even have the energy to put on my pajamas. I just get in the bed. I'm sorry, this is being recorded. I'm sorry. Let me calm back down and be professional. But
We
I'm
don't see it, but we understand it because we're there, right?
I'm
We're
just I'm
there.
just laying there. But anyway, the tips for success is when you're feeling good, make sure that you batch cook and that you're prepared for those occasions when you're not. Keep it simple. 3 to 5 ingredients can be enough for a meal. Roast chicken, toss it in the pan, some oil, some vegetables, whatever the case may be. I'm not sure, Anne Marie, if you've ever seen my spices. I have an entire spice cabinet. I love to eat and I love for my food to taste good. Flavor
Mm-hmm.
makes food exciting, so you can try garlic, lemon, ginger, rosemary, turmeric, cinnamon. Keep these simple and enjoyable, but also a word of warning. I always see people post about optimizing your immune system or elevating your immune system. You want to optimize it, not necessarily boost your immune system, because a lot of us, our immune system is doing too much. So it also goes back to what we were saying about some healthy foods aren't good for everybody. So
Mm-hmm.
there are some herbs, and I won't go into it, that you can't use or shouldn't use, or should be at least be aware of, when it comes to managing your autoimmune disease. So those things that we see all the time, ginger, turmeric, all of that. Well, if your immune system is on overdrive, you don't want to boost it. So optimization is key, not necessarily boosting your immune system.
Do you want to talk about the turmeric?
What about it?
Some people believe that it is a natural anti-inflammation
Mhm.
spice.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
So yeah, so the ginger, the turmeric, a lot of what we see, those especially those shots now have become a lot more popular, for boosting our immune system, echinacea. Like for just, I mean, if you just think about it, I'm not on any immunosuppressants, but a lot of people with autoimmune disease are. So if
mhm.
you're on immunosuppressants for your autoimmune disease, consuming things that are supposed to boost your immune system, the echinacea, the turmeric, the ginger, are aren't the things that you need to do to optimize your immune system. Your immune system is already on overdrive. So those things that you think it's kind of counterintuitive if you think about it are supposed to help your immune system, actually don't. So they can actually cause you to have flares as well. So just to be mindful of that. But again, everybody is different and everybody is different. So that's different for each individual. What autoimmune disease you have also matters what medication you're on.
Mhm.
So just a side note to be aware of that. Make sure that you keep your kitchen staples. I'm in the process of setting my house and moving, or else I would have had some out for you to see. But there's things like broth, coconut milk, etc. Anything that's in my pantry. Also, back in the day, used to be on food stamps and get food from food pantry. So I have become accustomed to making something out of nothing. And so whatever is in my pantry, I can make some good meals out of, but I do have those core staples, coconut milk, bone broth, coconut oil. There's something called coconut whipping cream in a can that I can make Cool Whip out of. I'm a heavy consumer of all things coconut because again, almond milk is a no. What other any type of nut butters is a no. So you need to have something else on hand if you're not drinking dairy. If you're not consuming nuts, coconut milk is the go-to, and also tiger nuts as well. Tiger nut is counterintuitive. It says it's a nut, but it's not really a nut, and they are AIP compliant.
Okay,
Now,
no. Now I have to know, what is a tiger nut?
I wish I would have brought it upstairs, and I'll show. I can share pictures. It's how
Let me
can
see if I
you
can find
say it?
one.
Yeah, and so if you can buy them online, they have them a lot at stores now.
Oh, I
And
see. Okay, and there's tiger nut milk.
there's tiger nut milk. You can make tiger nut flour. There is tiger nut butter. So if you're someone who is used to, and I'll talk a little bit about this later, to eating smoothies with almond butter, I used to replace that with tiger nut butter.
Okay, I put a
It's the
picture of
same
them in
thing.
the chat.
Yeah, tiger nut, and this has become a lot lot easier than it was in the past because a lot of stores now have these items on hand. But even you can get the tiger nuts online at Amazon, soak them overnight, make the milk, take the pulp, make a flour, and then take that and make tiger nut butter. So if you're thinking about, okay, how can I minimize my expenses on this? That's one way to do it as well. So now let's talk about what you need to know to get started in your kitchen. This is the part that you're like, Jamie, she's a little long-winded, but I think all of this information was important to get to the cooking portion of it on what you really need to know with cooking for autoimmune disease and cooking for your lupus. Now, if you're going through the full core AIP, you don't have to remove these items. You could have other people in your home that eat these items. But if it's just you and you want to make sure you don't have any slip ups, it's a good thing to do. You're going to start with cleaning out those items, the obvious non-AIP items from your pantry and your fridge, like bread, pasta, cereal, dairy. Just put them to the side so you'll have them if there's something that you in there that you can add in reintroductions. You're going to replace them with core AIP friendly items. For example, the cooking oils, extra virgin olive oil, virgin coconut oil, avocado oil, proteins, frozen or fresh meats, chicken, beef, pork, organ meats. I used to order mine offline. It was a lot cheaper to do it that way in bulk and also easier to find. With that, you can try blending them into meatballs and freezing them. I used to hate liver. I remember one time back in the day, I was in third grade. I'll never forget. My aunt made me eat liver. She would not let me get up from the table. I was there for 3 hours. I watched all the soap operas and The Price is Right. I don't know why it was early morning, but it seemed like it was early morning or we had them recorded. But I digress. Now I changed it over to the chicken livers and made an awesome pate with blending those with apples in the blender with some cinnamon, and then also spread them instead of having regular chips, apple slices. It was the best thing ever, and it absolutely changed my life. And was one of the things that I ate when I lost that weight. In those slides that I showed you earlier. Again, the bone broth, homemade or high quality bone broth, canned coconut milk, cassava flour is another one that's good with in addition to tiger nut flour. arrowroot starch for thickening when you're baking, spices, AIP friendly ones. And I put in there ginger, turmeric, but again, be careful with those. They are good in general, but again, if you have an overactive immune system are on immunosuppressants, those are something that you should be cautious with. Labeling. If you live with someone that you're keeping some of those foods in, make sure that you keep the food separated. You don't have to have all of these things at once. Start with a few essentials and build your pantry over time. That is what I did, especially with the food prices out here these days, just in general. A lot of these things also you can find at Aldi. I've been shopping there a lot more. You don't have to, again, travel to Whole Foods to get these items. With these staples on hand, it becomes a lot easier to do AIP because we're keeping it simple. Now, our critical time saver batch cooking. I talked about that a little bit already. Cook once, eat 3 to 4 times. We do not want to be in the kitchen all day slaving because we have other things to do, like rest. Pick a day for a few hours to cook large portions of food. Roast several chickens at a time. Keep the bones. Make bone broth. Make a big pot of soup. Grill pounds of meat at a time. Anne Marie.
Well, I have a question from the audience about the difference between homegrown foods versus store-bought foods, and does that make a difference in flavors?
Well, that's a loaded question. Um, so I would say this, you're gonna have more control over what's on your food when you do it home, when you home grow your food,
Mhm.
obviously. And then there is also a slight difference between conventional produce versus organic produce. But according to Dr. Sarah Ballantyne in her studies, her recent studies, not that much to make a huge difference to where you need to be stressing over it.
No,
Now, that being said,
that being said,
me personally, I'm going to start getting back into growing more of my own foods. One, because of the cost difference. Two, because on certain foods, it's not in my head. I do taste a difference between organically grown foods versus conventional foods. And so it's just become a preference. Also, if I have a lot of food allergies, I also have very bad histamine issues, which is a whole other topic in and of itself. For example, if these things don't work with your autoimmune disease, there's eliminations with called food mop. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that, which you eliminate a lot more foods because you have histamine issues. Um, so
so
answer
I can go there. I can go there, Jamie.
Mhm.
So there's hi Penny. Um, what I would say is if you have the opportunity to grow, for example, your own tomatoes and pluck, don't eat the peel, don't eat the seeds, right? But if you have the opportunity to grow your own tomatoes, there's hanging thingies you can do off a patio, or I have herbs in my kitchen window. My mother, who's legally blind from macular degeneration, she has like the indoor lettuce and herb grower, and there's different ways to do it. Number one is the pesticides. You're not going to have any of that. Number two is the soil is controlled and safe. So there's that. And some of these vegetables, when you're vegetables and fruit, when you're talking about organic and the label says organic, there's a different standard for what you think is organic and what the FDA thinks is organic. And so you still need to be mindful to wash things that where the skin can come in contact with the fruit or the vegetable, or the skin is going to be eaten. There's all these things to be mindful of. On top of that, when you think about growing food for a mass market, and now my wormhole is I can start talking about Monsanto. So the farmers of the world will tell you that there's now basically one large seed manufacturer in the country that they can buy seeds from. They're even being restrained from reusing their own seeds from their own fruits and vegetables, which is a natural occurrence in nature. So if you have, for example, if you buy an onion, here's a fun fact. If you buy an onion at the grocery store, and when you chop off the bottom of that onion, what's the bottom to us? Um, Keep the bottom, keep the top, plant them in the dirt, and you're going to grow an onion. If you buy romaine lettuce, Don't buy it bagged. For the love of all your money, don't buy it bagged. Chop off the end of that romaine, stick it in the dirt, you're going to grow lettuce. There's things that you can do to make that so much easier with what you're already spending. You will start to notice the food has a different taste. It's better. The food has a different texture. It's better. You're going to feel like, why does this tomato taste so much better? Well, because it's not being mass produced for the highest volume instead of the best fruit. So if you have the ability to home grow, even if it's indoors in your kitchen window, hanging a basket off your balcony, I say go for it, go for it, go for it. I garden terribly. I do not have a green thumb. My husband has built me a raised garden in the backyard. I have a fully enclosed tomato raised garden with gauged wire all the way around it to protect it from the squirrels. And I still got rats in it last spring, and they ate all the tomatoes off of the vines. I grow lettuce. I forget to harvest it in time and it wilts. I have a rogue squash plant in our compost pile that grows more squash than I grow in my garden. But I'm always trying. And this year I got shishito peppers. I was so excited. So excited. And it's still producing peppers now. And I planted it in March. If you start small and get moving on it, I think it's a great thing to do. It is far more affordable. So instead of buying one tomato for $3, you can buy a tomato plant for $3 and have tomatoes all summer long and then clip it down to 2 inches and start again in the fall. But chemical, volume, taste, I homegrown all the way, all the way.
Absolutely. And I would just add to that because I'm always trying to balance what is needed for AIP versus um, what's accessible. For in this case, accessible means when I had my shoulder surgery, I couldn't deal with the garden, right? And so you're going to always be in different stages. And so if you say, well, I'm not going to buy conventional because of the pesticides, that's a consideration because the pesticides in and of itself could be the reason that you're having the trigger. It may not even be the tomato. So, and again, it's going to be about that test that you're doing with yourself, making sure that you're rinsing. If you absolutely, I agree with Anne Marie, if you can grow them yourself, that's going to be the best option. But if you can't, making sure that you're rinsing them and cleaning them to the best of your ability, if it's something that you absolutely enjoy eating and you want to eat. But if you're still having issues, if you're doing your journal and you're tracking and you're saying, hey, I'm eating this and I'm having an issue, maybe try organic. Maybe try growing them yourself and see if there's a difference between the conventional versus the homegrown and see if that makes a difference as well. Because a lot of I didn't get too into it because this is about cooking. Um, Things that you put in your body and on your body make a difference too. We're not even talking about lotions with gluten and things that you should be looking for as far as topicals that you're putting on your body because your skin is your largest organ. So that's a topic for a different day. But yes, I absolutely agree with Anne Marie. But again, it's about access and what you're physically able to do as well as what you're able to afford. That being said, batch cooking, and we're going to be looking at the time, wrapping up soon so we can get to questions if you have any more questions. Making sure that you're freezing broths. I did that the other day. I happened to got to get a bunch of tomatoes from a commodity box. I wasn't going to waste them. I made some soup, put some coconut milk in there, froze them in the muffin tins, and put them in the freezer. So I'm ready for winter, and I can pop those out individually. Building meals during the week. Build meals from these pre-cooked staples. For example, combining roast chicken with fresh salad, heat chili, or add new toppings. For me, I like to do everything buffet style. So, for example, I'm roasting all of my potatoes. I'm cooking meats. I'm cooking my spinach. I'm cooking whatever it is that needs to be cooked because other people may be able to put additional toppings on there that are not AIP, but I'm on a little bit different diet. But look, I'm cooking once, and everybody in the house is going to eat. At least that way I have different things to build on and I can mix and match throughout the week and so can they. And so they can build their particular meal how they want to, but I can still make sure mine is AIP compliant. Time saver. Um, a little effort on the weekend means healthy meals and zero cooking on a busy night. So again, it doesn't necessarily have to be from recipes. Making sure that you have those staples is going to be the most important thing. And you can build your meal. Simplest thing is going to be a meat, a oil, and a vegetable. Throw it in the pan with some seasoning. and you're good to go. So what does that look like? Right? That's what you want to get to. How does this cooking look actually, Jamie? You've gone a long way around to get to this. Um, Breakfast, a veggie hash. A lot of, and I won't get to go into that right now. A protein and avocado. I used to say adding an egg to breakfast, to anything makes it breakfast. But you can do that with your with avocado as well, in my opinion. Try sauteing sweet potatoes, spinach, ground pork, topped with sliced avocado. It's both hearty and filling. It will get you all the way through the lunch. To lunch, you won't even need a snack in the morning unless you're really, really hungry. For lunch, grilled chicken, sauteed greens, sweet potatoes, something easy. For dinner, a turkey bowl, roast carrots and kraut. And as you can see, you can make all of these things separate and mix and match throughout the same week. I don't like making those individual bowls per se because I don't want to eat the same thing every day. If I keep it separate but still meal prep, I can mix and match, add different sauces, add different flavors as I see fit. Snacks, keep it simple. Olives, jerky, apples with coconut butter, or bone broth in between meals. You can keep it simple and make sure that everything is also nutrient dense. And again, rotate flavors using herbs, sauces, and spice blends, and you can switch it up and make like 1,000 different meals just from those staples that you have in your pantry. One of the things I wanted to mention, because a lot of times I see online, people have a hard time with breakfast. Because what do you mostly eat for breakfast? All the things that you're not supposed to have on AIP: bread, cereals, pastries, sugar, all of that. So you don't have to have a sugary, grain-filled breakfast. And think of breakfast as any nourishing first meal, right? You have to reframe what it is. For again, aim for proteins, veggies, and fats, like just like with any other meal. So for example, an AIP scramble with meat and veggies, or a bone broth based soup with chicken and greens. You can have soup for breakfast. You can have salads for breakfast. It doesn't have to be a waffle or some French toast. Leftovers are welcome, and they can make a great breakfast. You ate it last night, switch it up, mix it up again, put a different sauce on it. Last night's roasted veggies and chicken can be a quick reheat in the morning and does not have to be something that is what you would naturally think that a breakfast would be. Some people enjoy AIP pancakes. I mentioned cassava flour earlier. For sweet potatoes, mixing that with sweet potatoes and making sweet potato and cassava pancakes. You can do that. Or even the sweet potato hash with
You
avocado.
okay?
Oh, somebody said something.
You
Um,
okay?
even a quick smoothie with coconut milk, spinach, and berries. I mentioned earlier, if you want to add some protein, you can use that tiger nut butter. Again, avoid extremes. Try to include breakfast protein at your breakfast as well, instead of going for fruit or juice that can spike your blood sugar in the morning. There's no one AIP breakfast plate. Pick whatever energizes you without resorting to off-limit foods. And so, in between, another thing that I often see people have issues with as we wrap this up is as our snacks. Snacks should ideally be a protein and fat to keep you satisfied, and also to avoid your any blood sugar spikes. A few ideas: AIP approved jerky, canned tuna, avocado slices. If you look this up on the internet, and I can send this to you later, Anne Marie, there are a lot of AIP only online sales hubs, for lack of a better term. Thrive Market has a lot of them. What paleo, I forget the name of the other one. And there are even AIP meal companies that will ship these meals directly to your house if that's something that you're interested in. But it's a lot easier to find these things, especially snacks, already prepackaged, even at the grocery store. You just have to look out for them and know what they are. Portable grab and go things like olives, pickles, they come in those small handout, the small jars now. You can prep those on the weekend as well. Homemade vegetable chips are a good one. Bone broth, I mentioned that several times, can be a comforting snack. It doesn't always have to be something sweet. Instead of reaching for chips or fruit bars, keep mixed berries in the freezer. I mentioned earlier they have the coconut whipping cream because you can't have dairy. Pour that out of a can, blend that up. That is a homemade coconut whipping cream that you can add on top of that fruit. Switch it up to avoid boredom. Pre-pack them, be ready, so you're not stopping by the fast food place on the way home because your stomach is growling like I used to do back in the day.
Oof.
And don't just rely on fruits. We're also trying to avoid those blood sugar spikes as well. So where do you start? Jamie, you give me a whole bunch of doggone information. This is a lot. What am I supposed to do with all this? You're supposed to make it work for you. It's not supposed to be anything that is stressful. Choose 3 go-to meals you already like and repeat them. You'll find those as you go. Use what you have. You likely have garlic, lemon, herbs, vinegars that can make plain ingredients taste better. Again, be careful with that garlic and turmeric. Don't worry if your food isn't Instagram worthy or ready. This may not be pretty as long as it's tasty, right? You might not want to post it. I like pretty food, so I try to make mine pretty. But when you're first starting out, that's not what you need to be worrying
No,
about. It's
you don't
nutrition
want
over
to know what
presentation.
the food that is in like magazines and all that stuff is not edible.
Exactly.
It's
It's
not.
fake. It's fake
It's
anyway.
it's so altered and fake, so don't even try.
Mhm. Then don't overcomplicate all of this. Start with one swap. If there's something in your pantry that you can swap out. You're like, Jamie, the elimination reintroduction process is too much for me. That's fine. Just start with one thing at a time. So it's not a stressful process. And just one tip on the side. If you're just now starting this, you've never heard of AIP before, and you're like, I may want to try it. The holidays is not a good time for you to start down this path. So I'm just gonna keep it real with you. It's not because there's gonna be too many temptations, things that can throw you off of that elimination period where you are having to start all over again and you're gonna frustrate yourself. So if I were to do anything, I would start with one thing at a time, and then also we typically call that, or at least when I do my group coaching, a transition phase where you're slowly changing out your pantry, doing one thing at a time. That's just my opinion. You can start now if you want to, but it will be a lot easier to do if you don't complicate the process and start swapping out one thing at a time. Utilize what's in your pantry. If you already have frozen vegetables, if you already have coconut milk, no need to buy expensive ingredients if you have alternatives. Also, I want to reiterate again, it's a gradual change. You don't have to do it perfectly. Even those small changes, like adding an extra veggie or using a different oil, it's going to be a positive step in the right direction. Make it about fitting your life, adapt as needed to make it work long term. And so finally, I just want to wrap this up again. I have a lot more information on my website. If you want to go back, I have a whole page on my website called the Autoimmune Protocol. It goes through the elimination reintroduction briefly again and provides other information. Also, I haven't been updating it because I've been focusing on the AIP-BIPOC network and having multiple surgeries. Anne Marie knows this over the past couple of years. Knee surgery 2019, then the shoulders in 2023, and the hysterectomy last year. So I've put this on hold, but I am getting back to coaching, and I hope to be able to through the nonprofit, get grants to be able to do group coaching to expand this to as many people as possible. And I'm excited about that. So make sure that you stay connected. And with that, I am done. But first, if you want to, Anne Marie, if anyone, I told you to take notes at the beginning. Um, if you have one thing you want to share, a gradual thing or anything that you got from this presentation, I would love for you to share that. Be able to hold each other accountable. Y'all seem like y'all all know each other
Mhm.
as well. I hope Anne Marie has included me as part of the crew.
You're
And
always part of the crew,
again,
girlfriend.
I love sharing this information. So if you have anything that you can do, take away after the session, or that you learn from the session, feel free to share that as well. And with that, Anne Marie, I'll turn it back over to you to
Well, I
either get those
think
comments or facilitate any questions that anyone may have.
there he goes. Jacqueline had a question, I think, about are you comfortable sharing the slides or do you want to refer people to your website? What would you like?
All of the information that I shared is on my website, but I can share the slides.
That's up to you. And I mean, I have everybody's contact information. If you would like to be, for all of you that are attending tonight and anybody that's going to view this later online, if you would like to have the information, your information added to Jamie's newsletter, just either go to her website and sign
Mhm.
up. And it is, what's your website again, Jamie?
Ooh, there you go.
There we go.
Naturalhealing.coach, not .com or .org, naturalhealing.coach.
Coach. But you can also send your information, put it in the chat or send it to us, and we'll make sure that Jamie gets that as well. We don't mind sharing you. I think that there's so much information still to be learned about how to live with lupus and autoimmune diseases that, the more we can collaborate, the more we can help each other and identify each other, because a cure is coming. A cure is coming, and we want everybody to have access to that. Um, if you guys have any questions, you want to put it in the chat, or do you want to raise your hand? Or do you want to just say, thank you, Jamie, I'm overwhelmed and amazed?
I tried, I tried not to,
No, you did great. Jacqueline, go ahead.
Let me move because I'm currently looking at three different screens, but I am really, really happy to be here and just to learn this information because lupus is very new for me. It's been a really crazy process and journey as I was diagnosed officially in 2020 and had my first lupus flare this summer. And so I'm still kind of recovering from that and trying to figure out what this means, what this looks like, trying all of these different meds and trying to adjust cooking and trying to figure out what that looks like. So it's a whole new process for me. And just to kind of, I was actually just about to leave work and this popped up and I was like, oh, yeah, I want to attend this, but I didn't realize it was right then. It was like 5 minutes before showtime. So I was like, okay, well, I have some emails to check. But the information was very, very good. The AIP, just trying to understand that, but it makes perfect sense. My area and background is nutrition and dietetics, so I completely understand where you were coming from. But in essence, to like singling out or positioning the information to a condition like lupus, it's very interesting and eye-opening how you have been able to kind of navigate this whole journey with all of these other health conditions that you're having to, kind of battle at the same time and trying to find the best approach to cooking and making adjustments with everything else that you have going on. So the information was kind of right on time for me, especially with what I'm currently dealing with and trying to figure out a way to kind of move forward. So thank you for the information and for your presentation. I thought it was very enlightening for me.
Thank you so much. And it is a journey, especially when you're first diagnosed. And it can be overwhelming. It was for me at first. So I just encourage you to stay encouraged. There are still going to be ebbs and flows, even with all of the information that I know, there are still ebbs and flows because even though it's still autoimmune disease, how I lived with the Hashimoto's or went through those particular issues is very different with my joints. That impacted my thyroid. This is impacting my joints. Some of the symptoms overlap, but it was a new learning curve for each one. So I just encourage you to get as much information as possible so that you can become more empowered, learn as much about your body as possible, which is what the AIP process allowed me to do. I can better tell when something is coming on. And so Anne Marie mentioned earlier about the tofu and the fried foods. When I was in those early stages, the before pictures, it was harder for me to have those quote unquote cheats or go off program because my body was in such a state of inflammation. And with my flares were higher back then. So now that I've gotten my body back to a state of somewhat calm, I can play around with it a little bit, knowing that I have the tools to regain some control over my body. For example, I mentioned Thanksgiving is coming up. My grandmother only cooks once a year. Before it would take me weeks, sometimes months to recover. But now it's easier for me to take that risk. I just need a day to recover or two. But I know how to do that better because I have the tools in place. And my flares aren't as bad. I may still have them. They're not as long, they're not as intense. But again, that varies for like I said before, for everybody and for everybody.
Jamie, say your website again.
It's naturalhealing.coach right there at the bottom. And it's at the bottom of the slides as well.
Yeah. So I'm going to put it back in the chat again. It looks like there's a few people that would like to get on your mailing list, so I will send those over to you as well.
And actually, too, on the website, I forget what section it's on. I think I talk about my favorite things. I have a lot of AIP, I guess, tools that I have used, even physical tools. I have my own recovery room in my house with biplate, just because it was costly. I've been going through this for a long time, so the tools that I was using out in the world and paying $25 a session for, a co-page for, I was like, well, if I do that for a year, I would have paid for the machine myself. So that's on there. I need to update it. It hasn't been updated, but since the shoulder surgery, certain companies that have a lot of these meals already prepared are on there. Thrive Market is on there. And I'll be adding a lot more as well in the coming weeks.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I, as always, appreciate you. And I'm grateful for your insight and your patience and your wisdom, your experience. I'm really sad that you had to learn the experience, but I'm delighted that you learned it in a way that you're willing to share it with all of us. So thank you,
Absolutely.
Miss Jamie.
Thank you
And
for having me.
guys, there should have been a QR code that I forgot to put in for the survey. So you'll get something from Jennifer probably tomorrow. Please fill that out and let us know any other classes that you'd like to have. And a great big round of applause for Miss Jamie Nicole. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night, everyone. Rest,
Bye-bye.
hydrate, and rest. Bye. Thanks, Jamie.
Mhm.
I appreciate you.
No problem. Anytime.